Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Inside Track. Now, I've got a fabulous guest with us today, Adrian Marks, founder and CEO of Enjoy Marketing Group. How are you?
Yeah, well, mate, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, awesome, thank you. Now, I will caveat this. We've known each other for, it must be 20 years now. I'm sure it was 2004 I joined Marriott and you were part of their, doing their marketing.
Probably. We've not aged today.
No. I can still think I'm looking younger and you, Adrian. So, absolutely, we've known each other a long time. And to be fair, you're probably one of the stalwarts. I don't want to make you sound old, but in terms of marketing in our industry, you've pretty much seen it all the way through. So, I think probably the best place to start is, some people may not know who you are. I'm sure most people do. But do you want to give us a quick rundown on who Adrian is, what Enjoy Marketing is, and then obviously we'll kick off from there.
Yes, right, absolutely. And I'll be as quick and slow as you like with this. So tell me to speed up or slow down. I go back to the very, very early 90s of the wild, wild west of the fitness industry, when the likes of Fitness First and were finding a footing in LA Fitness, and David Lloyd were transitioning from a rackets club to a sort of health and rackets club. And Ursa sort of made its first forays into the UK. And I sort of got in the by default, really. I came in through hospitality originally, and sales. My original background was behavioural economics, how and why people do things, which is, I thought, something I could use for life. And after coming out of education, thought I could never use it. So I ended up in the hospitality industry, and by default got involved in the fitness side of things because there was a lot happening. And then for my sins, ended up on a trip to one of the infamous initial FIA to Ursa trips in the very, very early 90s, and bumped into a number of people from Salesmakers, which you possibly remember, which was a membership sales stroke marketing business. Got on well with them, brought them over to a facility I was working at, and got on well. And next thing I knew, I was working for them. Spent about a year or so doing that. And then through that, I ended up joining up with a group of guys headed by a chap called Hugh Watson, and started and built, which was not a stupid idea, but we built a club. We didn't just move to a building, we built a building in Bristol. And it just went phenomenally well. And I think we were lucky. It was in a great location. It was the right time, but we filled the club out before it opened. So all of a sudden you become a bit of a star for doing that within the industry at that time. And then we went on to build 3 more. And then eventually that got sold on to, Hilton stroke Livingwell. And it was very quickly flipped. Yeah, it got about 97, 98, and then got flipped over to Duncan Bannatyne's crew. So they were Livingwells for a very short period of time. And we did okay out of that. And again, the headline numbers made us all stars, but actually there was so much debt in that there was a bit of profit, but it wasn't, you're not going to retire, but the headline numbers look great. Definitely made a story out of that. And then from there, it was very much a case of, okay, now I see where my skill set can be used. I started to use more around behavioural economics and why people buy stuff. And ended up working with another operator, which we again flipped very quickly. Within 18 months, I sold that to Crown Sports, which was then flipped to LA Fitness. So all this was going on in the mid to late 90s. Right. So it came down a bit with a decent reputation for being able to get members into gyms, really. So that was cool. And then I didn't have a clue what to do from there, to be fair. And then the phone started to ring, and I started doing consultancy. And mainly around sales and what we would now call sales funnels, but that then was just sales process and bits and pieces. And then bit by bit, it became more and more likely. The question was, can you review our marketing? Can you not just help us with the copy? And eventually, can you not do this for us? So in 2002, I just started Enjoy as a sideline to support the sort of sales consultancy part of the business. And within 2 years, the tail was wagging the dog. Yeah. We were doing a lot of work with LA Fitness and David Lloyd and remember Next Generation, and so there's a lot going on. So the sales
around about that time as well, Adrian.
With Marriott,
marketing in gyms. I mean, I come in what 98 sort of time, but marketing in gyms was still nobody had got it right. So if you were obviously coming in and you had results behind you, you're almost there to clean up in a way, because no one within the clubs really knew what they were doing as well as they should have done.
No, and I think you find that it's a relatively new industry. You know, if you look at the hotel industry, that's sort of, you know, probably 2,000 years old, and the gym industry even now is probably no more than 50 years old, really. So, and in the mid to late 90s, it was a wild west. You had people who were passionate starting gyms, and like you said, they were passionate about fitness, but didn't know a huge amount about marketing or sales or business in general. And then you had the big boys coming in and opening clubs at, you know, 2 or 3 a year, sometimes if not more, and buying each other up, and they were just really interested in scale. And so there was a nice opportunity there, and you talk about luck, and some of it's luck. I mean, I have a friend of mine who goes, "Luck doesn't strike that often in the same place twice," you know. But we were in a good place, and like you say, we picked up some good clients. And actually, between 2004 and 2009, Enjoy sort of doubled its size every year, and then got to a point where actually we were starting to bring in more clients out of the fitness industry. And I probably got a little bit sort of, I don't know, browbeaten by it. I've been doing it for 15 years, and it's the same old problems, the same old things. So. And the clients were getting bigger, so the demands were getting higher. So we started to move outside, and a lot of contacts I had that would say, you know, the chief executive, David Lloyd, also became the chief executive of Costa Coffee, and the chief executive, remember, Greens, moved across to run a holiday company, and all of a sudden we're in with those, and all of a sudden you go, actually, this isn't a specific knowledge around marketing sales for gyms. This is a very specific way of being able to sell and generate leads and convert those leads into sales. So probably 5 years, Enjoy became probably went from being 90% gym and fitness based to being probably 20% gym and fitness based.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah. And then in 2014, 2015, I got involved with a guy who was trying to get a gym off the ground. And I sort of got the passion back to go, do you know what? I really love this industry. So I looked at Enjoy and went, how do I go from working with big multi-site businesses, which is all we were doing, to working with gyms again? And I made a very conscious decision to say, right, I'm going to create a program. I'm going to create something that I can deliver for independent gyms and smaller chains that doesn't require the investment they would need to work with where Enjoy's clients were at the time. So I got back into it that way, really. And it was nice to have. I have a few years off. I didn't, because we were working with getting JD gyms launched with Alan Peacock, and there was other bits and pieces going on at the time. So we never stood away from it. But it was a period where Enjoy became probably something I didn't want it to be, if I'm honest.
But the thing is, as well, with that though, Adrian, you move away and you find different approaches that then you can bring back to what you're doing now. And I guess so. We'll come on to, in terms of that program, we'll definitely come on to that, Adrian, because I think it's really important. But I guess with that story, sort of leads quite nicely into. You've probably seen so many changes now. I mean, marketing in terms of, like you were saying, just the funnels. Now it's a dedicated, most of it's automated. I mean, what do you think is the biggest changes we've probably seen over the last 20 years in terms of how we do things?
Well, it's tech. I mean, obviously it's tech, and that's a really glib and obvious answer. But actually, it's the platforms. I think if you think about, and you'll recognise this as much as I do, you know, up to 2004, you wanted to reach people, you'd need some leaflets, or you'd need a newspaper ad, or if you had a bit of money, you'd waste it on
franking
the
letters. We were talking about it the other day.
Absolutely.
With someone sat there franking 5,000 letters because it was like 17p a stamp, wasn't it? And that's what you did in January. 5,000 letters went out to every man and his dog.
Absolutely, and then you do the same for referrals and the same for lapsed members. So that 5,000 became 10,000, and so the platforms have changed, and it's never been easier to reach people. Actually, it's never been easier to reach the right person with the right message at the right time, which is that sort of cliched marketing phrase, but it just hasn't. It does raise the competition. Every man and his dog all of a sudden is a gym expert or fitness expert online. And the people, I think the consumer has to be a little bit more careful. It's probably a little bit more jaded. So the difference is the platforms. But what's interesting is that the real crux behind it all doesn't change. The way that you market hasn't changed in God knows, in 100 years, 120 years. It's an amazing book by a chap called Claude Hopkins from the 1920s called The Science of Advertising. And it's that old, it's free now. It's sort of out of copyright. But you read it and it could have been written 6 months ago, forgetting the technology.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people miss. But the actually sales and marketing doesn't change because people don't change. Why people buy stuff, how they buy stuff, the way they want to buy stuff hasn't really changed. They just move their focus of attention. And to be successful, you have to go to where their attention is. And at the moment is YouTube or Facebook or Google. And that will change again at some point. AI will play its part in how attention is distracted or driven. But they're the biggest changes. And some of it's really positive. But there's elements of negativity where you rely too much on tech. You talk about, sitting there and franking letters on December 31st to catch the post on January the 2nd. Now, we don't have to do that anymore. You just go into your CRM and you send an email out and it's gone within 10 minutes. But what's lost is the second part needs to happen, is you used to then get your team together and you'd have to plow through 5,000 phone calls to speak to everybody.
Yeah.
And
I think the techs discourage people from doing that. That's the problem. They almost rely. We've got this automation in place. It's going to send them a text message. It's going to send them an email. We don't have to do that call. And what I have to do when I go into clubs, and you're probably doing this all the time as well, is, guys, this call that has to still happen. All the text message does is keep that person warm whilst you're trying to get through to them. All that personal touch is still as important.
Absolutely. I think it's even more important. I think it's even more important. I think that I think everything's with the way the platforms have changed, and you don't put stamps on stuff, and the way you can reach people instantly, was a massive benefit. But they expect responses much quicker as well. So if you sent a letter out to somebody in 2004, you could ring them 3 days later, and they'd probably remember the letter and probably still be interested. You get an inquiry now, and you don't call that person back within half an hour, then there's a high chance you're not even going to get to speak to them.
I read somewhere if you don't do it in 10 minutes, it's a 70% drop-off rate. Now, I can't remember what study that was done in, but when you're like, that is just bonkers. Because how many clubs, especially independent ones that I work with a lot, and obviously you're now working with, it's for them to have the staff level to then respond to that within that 10 minutes. But you're like going, if you don't, especially within the half an hour or the hour, you may as well bin it. Because the chances of actually getting hold of that client is almost zero.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you don't call somebody in 10 minutes, you lose them. That's probably a quote from a salesperson or somebody that runs a sales company. But I agree. It's like anything else. The quicker you contact somebody when they're interested. And again, things don't change. I remember doing sales training 20 years ago. I used to talk about the idea of a kettle on the stove. That when somebody contacts you, that's them boiling hot on the stove, and you take it off the stove. And the longer you leave it, the quicker it cools down. So I don't think it's ever changed. And whether that's, I think, definitely 100% you call somebody straight away, then you're going to get a better chance of converting them than if you leave it 3 days. But yeah, I think that, and you see that, I see with the clients that I still work with, those that call people quicker, are engaging quicker and getting sales quicker. And also as well, that, when I said before, it's so much easier to reach people so quickly, but it's so much easier for them to reach you and to find out about you, and they can shop around. And so I have to say to clients, look, just because somebody's filled a form in on your website doesn't mean that's the only form they've filled in. And that's the truth of it. So if you don't call them back within, like you say, 10 minutes or half an hour, and they've filled 2 forms in, and somebody else calls them back within 10 minutes. So there's that side to it as well. And I've got an almost live version of that now. I was looking to get my wife a new car last week, and we went into the dealership on Friday, saw a car we liked, put a deposit down on it, said to the salesperson to come back tomorrow. It wasn't actually at the dealership. We'll get it up. Can we test drive it? And he went, I'm off till Wednesday. Well, okay, fine. We'll come in next Thursday. Sunday morning, I was flipping around online and found a better deal at another dealer for a different car. And we went in Sunday and bought that one instead and asked for my money back on Monday. So speed, I think, we just don't want to wait anymore for anything, do we? We want it now. We just want stuff now.
But everything we do is geared around that speed, isn't it? And it's almost, when you look at it, it's because the one big thing that comes up in a lot of the groups is pricing and how we sell our memberships and stuff. And you can see there's a shift in that, especially if you go sort of the London market. A lot of it now is around packs rather than memberships, because people's idea of how they want to spend their time is changed as well. So people aren't inquiring to sign up for a 12-month membership anymore. They're signing up because they just want to have a Soul Cycle membership, a yoga membership, Pilates membership, boot camp membership, and even that's changed. So the market is having to change to fit in with that. Now, that's not countrywide generally. It tends to be in the bigger cities, but even so, that whole ethos in terms of what people want and how they want to experience their leisure time or their fitness has changed massively, and so the marketing's had to as well.
I think so, and I think I think the challenge with that is sometimes we create packages for people to buy, and I think that there's a fine line between creating something that the customer is asking for, which is I'd like a pack of 10, please, than it is creating something that we think we can sell. And I sometimes, when I talk to clients, I'm ripping packages down. I was talking to a client last week, and he's got a couple of gyms, and he must have 30 packages on his website. And I went, right, we need to reduce that down. He went, right, I'll have a look. How much do I need to reduce it down by? And I went, all right, we're looking for 3. And he went, right, so I'll get rid of 3. I said, no, we're looking for 3. And his little face, and I went, I'm not saying you don't sell all those packages, but all you're doing is confusing people and putting them off. And actually, the packages, the concept behind them is straightforward. Like you said, a membership, I'm committing long term, so therefore I get a better deal. And again, I'm in the cities, I just want a package because either A, I'm transient, or B, my lifestyle dictates that I've got 20 gyms within 20 feet of me. Whereas you don't have 20 gyms within 200 miles if you go sort of north of Watford. And I can say that because I'm a northerner. So the aim is you create an option for each that people can buy into. And particularly in the fitness industry, people are joining gyms or buying packages or buying memberships to get healthier, which is a lifestyle decision. So they're not doing it for 3 weeks, or do you know what? I'm going to get fit for 10 studio classes, and I'm going to call it a day. So it's
really interesting selling fitness, isn't it? Because you're not actually selling a product or a service necessarily. You're selling a lifestyle. It is something that is long term. It is, and it's also somebody wants that a lot more than, like you were talking about buying a car. You're still having a look around in terms of what you want, and then you'll see the product that you want. But it's quite different. So that salesperson is probably having to work a little bit harder to encourage you that that's the car for you. Whereas I don't think if you get it right, it's actually that hard of a sell fitness if you get their goals right. But so many, and I can remember having many conversations with you back in the day. Fitness isn't about a product sale. It's about what the person needs and what the person wants to achieve. So you're selling their goals back to them in essence. And so many clubs still don't do that after all the. I think it's actually got worse over the last 10 years.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it has.
Since I've been really selling it and selling the train, or delivering the training, that ability to delve deep into people's goals and desires and their outcomes just isn't there. We're selling on product. Oh, look how shiny my gym is. Well,
absolutely, and they don't and they don't care to a degree, but it depends what the reason is for joining. Some people want. If people, part of their buying decision is status-based thing, and I want the best of something, and I want people to know where I'm a member of, which is the higher price stuff, then how it looks has got a relevance to it. If they're sort of buying into that sense of contribution and significance, and I'm at the coolest boutique in London, then actually being part of that tribe is important. So it's and they're not going to tell you that, but it's trying to understand where that comes from. But ultimately, it's about it's about outputs. To me, it's about outcomes. It's about what do they want, what are they trying to achieve, and we think we're selling gym memberships, and we're not. We're selling a result, whatever that result is. It might be I want to lose 2 stone. It might be I might be the best way I'm going to find a partner. It might be I'm lonely. It might be I've been told if I don't do this, I'm going to die. And this is where again we go back and you look at what I consider good old-fashioned sales. You get somebody in front of you, and you go through that. You ask those questions. You try and find a result. But online, it's like, well, here's the price. So we are pretty much I think with online sales, particularly not careful, you're just shaking the tree. And those apples that are to fall will fall, and you step back and you think you've done well, and there's 97% of them still in the tree that wait to be picked. And so I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, it's about desire. It's about value. I think anything's about value, whether you're buying a car, which is a product, or whether you're buying a membership, which is, it's about something you're going to achieve. You don't even get it now, That's the irony of buying a membership. But look, if you're trying to lose weight, what we will do is not guarantee it. You have to wait 6 months, and actually you're going to have to do all the work. So where would you like to sign? But in reality, if you take a step back, we know we can commit to helping you. We can guarantee it. We can give support, because actually, and that's where I think a lot of gym businesses miss out. If you think about, I'm selling fitness, yes, you are 100%. Actually, you're also selling nutrition. And that's always been the case. Because if these people do not put the right stuff in their mouths on a regular basis, no matter how often they come to the gym, they're not going to get their desired result. Yet very few gyms still sell nutrition. And then the third part to it, which I think, and you probably take the budget gyms out of this, the lower price rankings, what you're selling is accountability. I will hold you personally responsible. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that. And if you charge more than sort of £50 a month, then you should start taking a level of accountability. When you're charging £19, it's probably difficult to go, I'll call you 3 times a week and I'll meet up with you and we'll focus on your goals. But there's a real need for that. And again, it's probably not to talk about right now, but understanding that people will pay different prices for different results, I think really gets lost in our industry.
Hugely. And I think that accountability point is massive, because when you are paying 50, 60, 70, 120, that sort of amount, you should almost be able to guarantee them results. If someone comes in, they're going, I want to lose weight. Now, if someone wants to lose 5 stone, you might not be able to guarantee that, but you can guarantee them a journey that they're going to go on, and they are going to lose weight. And if you're not willing necessarily to guarantee that, then that says more about you as a club and what you're actually delivering, and sort of going, well, actually, are you overpriced? Are you actually offering the service that you're claiming to, if you can't put your money where your mouth is in that essence? But most of the clubs, I think that most of the ones I work with, if you generally got them to stand behind it, would deliver those results for 95%
absolutely
of people. They're just scared to say that.
I'm absolutely scared to, because it's their money and their income and their livelihood, and it's easy for me and you to sit on here chatting away. And you know what? Guarantee every sale that you make, because it's not us that's refunding the money if it doesn't happen. However, it doesn't have to be a refund. It can be, look, I'll work with you. I can get you 2 stone off in 6 months if you do exactly what I tell you to do. And if you don't, I'll work with you for free after that. Now, that is a commitment and a guarantee you can give, because we know as an industry, and every gym owner worth their salt knows exactly what somebody needs to do to lose 2 stone in 6 months. I mean, 95% of them know how people can lose 2 stone in 2 months, if not less. But so there is a confidence issue. But I think the second part of it, I think, again, there's a lack of understanding behind it. The biggest issue that gym owners have when they're selling to people is they think everybody's in the same state of mind as they are, which is they're totally committed to fitness and they fully understand fitness. And the truth is, unless they are maybe at that sort of CrossFit level and it's quite intense, and they tend to be people that have worked their way up to that type of facility, they haven't got a clue. They just haven't got a clue. And if they do have a clue, because back to the accountability, they just want someone to say, no, don't put that donut down. And focus. But I'm joking about it, but it's true. It's 100% true.
Absolutely, it is.
And then once they've got that bit right, it is just a case of understanding the value you bring. That's all it is. And the irony is, I work with a couple of healthcare companies, again through Enjoy, who do bariatric surgery and liposuction and bits and pieces. And it baffles me that, or used to baffle me, they can charge £8,000 for that, and somebody walks out 5 stone lighter. Yeah, a gym can get somebody 5 stone lighter, but won't charge £8,000. Well, feels funny charging more than £18 a month. Well, they do. But actually, when you sit back and look at it, it's because it's not just about the physical result itself or the emotional result itself. There are other factors at play. There's something around likelihood of achievement. If you can increase that, you can charge more. Because again, if you look at liposuction, you want to lose 2 stone, liposuction will take it off you in 24 hours. So, and the likelihood of that happening is pretty much 100%. So all of a sudden, you can guarantee that. So the price goes up. And actually, time-wise, 24, 48 hours, okay, price goes up. And then the third element is effort, but either emotional or physical. And again, there is not a lot, you know, a bit of discomfort after that. So the price goes up. And if you play that in play and sort of go, okay, that makes sense. And then so that's why I can charge £8,000 for liposuction or bariatric surgery, and I can only charge £18 a month for a budget gym. And there's a middle ground, look at boot camps. Well, okay, yeah, likelihood of achievement, higher than a budget gym. Time involved, higher than a budget gym. Yeah. Effort, physically no different, probably, but emotional effort, look, I'm here to hold your hand. So I can charge 10 times as much as I do for a boot camp, and I can. And if you actually put that into place, it does allow you to look at your business and go, what can I add in relation to, you know, guaranteed likelihood of attainment or of achievement or getting the result? How can I speed the process up for them? And how can I take away a little bit of discomfort, whether emotional in terms of support or physical in terms of, you know, the physical pain involved with getting fit? And if you can reduce, well, if you increase the likelihood of attainment and reduce the other two, you can put your prices up.
And that's where it comes down to, because obviously one of the big challenges with independent clubs is when they have a pure gym or whatever enter the market, and they suddenly go, oh shit. And a lot of them's first response is drop our prices to compete. When actually you want to go the other way, increase service, increase price, differentiate yourself, but then obviously make sure you're delivering on your promises.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't necessarily even have to change your business model. But if a big gym comes into town, a pure gym comes into town, the first thing you need to understand is they're going to spend £60,000 on marketing to take your members away. And nobody wants to hear that, but that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the irony is, by the time it all settles down, they've taken a percentage, but not many, which means that people have inertia, they don't want to move. And secondly, you're doing something right. But what you need to do is batten down the hatches, or like you say, start to focus on what you're good at. Because what the budget gyms won't do, and they don't want to do, to be fair. So it's not a, you know, we still work with some of the budget gyms on campaigns and stuff. They don't want to be accountable for results. That's not their model. Whereas if you're an independent gym owner, or you've got a couple of gyms in a couple of towns, you can take accountability. Again, Absolutely. The budget gyms don't particularly want to get involved in nutrition. It's the difference between a restaurant and a supermarket. Budget gyms are a supermarket. They don't profess to be anything else. You walk in, there's no staff at the front. You fill your bag, you get to the checkout. There's nobody there to serve you. You pay your money and you walk out. There's a reason that supermarkets exist and why they work. At the same time, you go to the farmer's market on a Sunday and they will wrap it up, put it in foil, dust it down.
Tell you where it's come from, the whole shebang.
Tell you where it come from and charge you 5 times the price. And you go out happier in your experience. And I think our industry needs to understand it's the same. And you don't have to. What we do actually is quite ironic. When you look at, I might go off tangent, just drag me back in, but what's quite ironic, when you look at businesses, they get that whole 80-20 concept of 80% of your customers will pay that, 20% will pay that. And most of the bigger ones understand there's 80% of the 20% that will pay that. And that sort of goes up. So you go to jump on a plane and you want to fly to Dubai, and I'm up near Manchester, it's 300 quid. You want to go business class, it's 2,700. You want to go first class, it's probably £7,000. Yeah. The numbers change. You have sort of 400 people, 75 people, and 15 people. But the irony is, if you'd have packed that whole plane out with just economy, you've got about 75% less income.
Wow.
By doing it. So and let's not get into maths, but if you got 400 people on a plane at 300 quid, but then you've got, instead of 400, you've got 300 at 300 quid, and then you've got 75 at £2.5 grand.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And then the irony behind it is, guess what? The plane's lighter, there's less people on it and less baggage, it uses less fuel. You use less food, less people to feed. You need less people to get people on and less people to get them off. So the whole thing is very, very profitable for them. But hotels are the same. Hotels not £50 a night, it's £50 a night, or you can have a deluxe double for 120, or you can have the penthouse suite for 680, and access to the fluffy chair and the jacuzzi for an extra £42. They understand all of that, Yeah, what we tend to do as an industry, go, do you know what? I'm the £40 a night, right?
And
Okay, well,
that's it for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to open £120 a night one, and I'm going to be a £200 a night one, and you're just going. Actually, you can all do pretty much all of them. And I had this conversation last year with a guy who's got a couple of budget gyms up in Scotland. And I said, look, try this concept and see what it does. And he had 2,000 members paying around up to £20 a month. So he's got 40 grand a month coming in. And I said, look, leave them as they are. But when you now sell 200 members a month, let's offer a kickstart, get start, welcome, 12-week weight loss package, whatever you want to be, it's 400 quid. I said, if you can get just 5% of your new members going on, that's an extra £4 grand a month, that's increased your monthly revenue by 10%, and all that goes to the bottom line. I said, and let's put some sort of boutique type thing in the middle, which is a semi-PT, let's get 6 people together and change our lives type membership and charge 150 quid for it. And anyway, he went from I think he went from 40,000 a month. After it took a while to get it going. I think a confidence. We haven't sold any this week. What do you mean you haven't sold any this week? So look at the size of the 2 people that have just joined. How are they not on the weight loss program? You know. But after building the confidence and doing it, we're now doing 52,000. Wow. So it's an extra 12 grand a month, but it's all profit. So he's doubled his profit.
It's the same as just the standard pricing model. Like even if you take out the tiered levels, the amount of clubs that are still charging the same price now as when they opened 10 years ago. And the amount, I mean, I can remember having this conversation with you at Marriott going, we need to increase the price every year. We can't have this where you go, leave it for 3 years, then we whack the price up exponentially by 12% or whatever, and then you leave it for another. Because all you're doing is upsetting people all the way along the lines. But the confidence for clubs is, if you get into Rob's group at any point and watch some of the conversations that are happening, I'm not sure I should increase my price. How do we do this? And funny enough, I was talking to someone today about it, and you're sort of going, you have to do it every year because then it's a small percentage. It might be £1, it might be 3%, and then it grows. You don't take the hit on the cost, and it just continues to grow. Your members accept that there's always going to be a price increase. I don't know any other business, with all the other people I know that own businesses and the businesses I've worked with, I don't know any other business that opens and then never increases their prices. And fitness is one of them. And you just like, why do we do that? It just doesn't make sense.
I know. And I think there's lack of confidence and there's fear of losing people. And I think, like you say, if you've not done it from the beginning, it's harder. If you've got members who are on the same price for 10 years and putting it up, it creates that issue. But the budget gyms have a slightly different problem because once they get over a certain threshold, they're no longer budget gyms. So you sort of get where they come from.
But they're pure volume anyway. That's the way they're designed.
Yeah, but that's the irony of it as well. I mean, you don't necessarily even have to put your existing members up. So if the average member is staying 18 months to 2 years, let's say, in your gym, then you say to them, right, your price will never go up, on the basis you know that 90% of them won't be here in 2 years. So it makes no difference to them whatsoever. So it's the irony of it when you look at it is that you're not really, unless you're doing it to all your members, you're not impacting them. And actually the difference is huge because again, I'm not saying you put it up 10%, but if you put it up 10%, most gyms are struggling to make 10% bottom line profit. So if you're putting your prices up by 10%, then, and in the next 12 months, half of your members coming on that rate, then you've added 50% to your bottom line.
We increased the club I'm working with at the minute. They increased their rates by £2. Now they've got 4,000 members. That's £8 grand a month instantly. And the memberships at a rate, it's like £49. It's hardly, it's because it's cheap. The £2 hardly anything. And suddenly they've found 96 grand or whatever it is in the year just by putting it. And you're just like, that is incredible. And they sat there going, oh, why didn't we do this before? And then put the price up for 10 years.
And that's the big thing. 96 grand's a lot of money, but it's not just that's top line revenue. When you start looking at the percentage increase on the bottom line, it becomes quite frightening to what I also talk about money being left on the table. It just drives me nuts, and that's a good example. If you're not putting if you think about it, there's only so many ways you can get more profit, and everybody focuses on selling more members, which is cool. But actually, you put your prices up, you can reduce your costs, you can upsell, you can add, like we say, different layers of buying into stuff. You can add bolt-ons, and they just, I think there's, like you said, they're frightened to do it in. They're unsure if it will work. But it's like anything, you just test it. And I was mentioning before about a car last week. They tell you the price of the car. By the time you're stuck on your panoramic, non-sliding sunroof, your red calipers, and your light-up grille, and would you like a chrome petrol cap? All of a sudden, it's like an extra 10 grand on the car, and you're going, What just happened?
I'm sure it came in and it was 25 grand. Now 45.
Yeah, it's now jumped to 40.
How did that work? Yeah. Well, I guess price versus service is something we've gone through, and it's in terms of the things that matter in the club. What would you say the two main things, or I guess the two things that matter in any gym space that clubs need to look at?
From a sales and marketing perspective,
yeah,
you think, yeah. Which is, I think there's two things and there's two numbers. I think the first one is, how much does it cost you to get a member? What's the cost per acquisition? Because that will dictate going forward just how many members you can get and how profitable you can be.
And does that fluctuate quite a lot, Adrian, in terms of, in your experience? Because obviously you probably do this a lot more than I do. I have partners I work with generally, but in terms of that price, price to get that client in, does that fluctuate depending on location? Does it change much, or is it a fairly static and almost doesn't matter where you guys are going in as Enjoy, you can almost guarantee it'll be between this and this?
I think there's two answers to that. I think that the cost per acquisition will be dictated by the price you charge. Cost per lead won't be, but cost per acquisition will be.
Yeah.
If you charge £200 a month, it's going to cost more to get a member than if you charge £20 a month. It just is. That's the first bit. And I think the second thing is, it's then about whether people are doing it correctly. Because although I talk cost per acquisition is the key number, there are numbers underneath that, which is, well, how much is it costing you to reach 1,000 people or get 1,000 people to your website? So let's keep it online initially. Okay, then what does it cost to generate a lead from there? Then what does it cost to get somebody in if you're selling in club? And so there are those other metrics underneath, and you look to improve all of those. But the only one that really matters is cost per acquisition. Because if somebody goes, oh, my cost per lead's £1. Okay, well, out of 100 of those, how much you sell? One. Okay, so your cost per acquisition is £100. My cost per acquisition is 10 quid. Or a cost per lead is 10 quid. Okay, that's 10 times that. How many buy? All of them. Well, now your cost per acquisition is £10, which is 90% better. So all those other metrics play their part. But the cost per acquisition is where you start, because it's that one figure that says to you, yeah, I'm doing this well, I'm not doing it well. And yes, it varies. Going back to your question, I think it varies geographically. Cities are more expensive. It's harder to reach people. It's harder to get their attention, and it's harder to be more finite. And by that I mean, you can do a 2-mile radius around a club in Scunthorpe, but you do a 2-mile radius around a club in Westminster, and you're probably out at Hammersmith before you stop. So so it does vary. But the cost per acquisition is probably the one, and the second one is lifetime value, which is, well, how much money do we get from a member? And knowing that dictates how profitable your club can be.
But it should dictate how much you want to spend at the front end, because in the end of the day, if you've got members staying for 3 or 4 years and it's worth thousands to you, you can afford to spend a little bit more on the front end to get those clients in. If they're only staying 3 months, then you're only getting 90 quid out of them. You suddenly start looking, going, if we spend 90 quid to get them in, actually we're dead before we even start.
I know, and this goes all the way back to our conversation about memberships. There's been a big swing in the last probably 10 years in the budget gyms. We don't have contracts, we don't tie people in, and I understand the logic behind it, but that's got to destroy lifetime value of members. And to me, most people are joining on based on a lifestyle decision. and aren't joining for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. They're joining to be healthy for life. If they move, then fine.
It's an interesting question, that. So here's one to throw at you then, Adrian. Do you think the question on contracts, because I don't find it an issue. I put them in wherever I go because there's a number of reasons why it's worth doing. But do you think it's a club owner problem? So in their head, they don't like contracts, so they don't want to put them in their clubs. Or do you think it's a consumer problem and it's genuinely driven by the consumer to go, we don't like contracts, we're not going to sign them, so club owners won't put them in?
I actually think, it does actually. I think it's something that's actually been started by the budget gyms and the chains.
Do you think?
And I think they introduced it as a differentiation tactic, and I think it was a very, very good one. We won't, it's only £12 a month if you join now before we open, or £9.99 if you buy it now. We'll keep that flat for a year. You're not even under contract. You can leave at any time. And when you're selling volume, that tactic is useful. And when you are building through scale, then that tactic is useful. I.e., you've opened 10 clubs last month, you open another 10 this month. The old fitness first concept, you look like a fitness first. By the time they got into year 6, the clubs in year 1 weren't making any money. And it didn't really matter generally, because in year 7, I've got another 20 clubs opening. But so as long as you're keeping growing and scaling, it's not an issue. When you've got,
I know my club made 20 grand a year. That's all. When I joined Fitness First just before Marriott, they were making 20 grand a year profit. That was it. And even that was questionable. I'm sure there was some dodgy accounting just to make that. To make absolutely. That. And we eventually got it up, and we were making I think it was £250,000 in the end, but it was 20 grand. You're like going,
Yeah, but no, going back to the question, I think it was driven by them. I don't think it's driven by the consumer. I think there's part of that is now true because they're so used to Pure and Gym Group and JD going no contract. So now they are more aware of it. But in reality, we don't shy away from contracts. If you're on Netflix and then you've got a monthly pay-as-you-go subscription, but if you've got a mobile phone, if you've got any sort of finance, if you've got a car, if you've got even your gas bill, all of that.
I've never had it as an issue. Whenever I've gone into a club and gone, right, we're going to introduce contracts, and the club manager eyes open, go, no, and you go, right, trust me, and we've done it. They've suddenly gone, no one's even questioned it. We've gone, it's this much per month. It's a 12-month contract, and they just sign, and you're just like, that's the point. And then you're able to do things like claim for the VAT, the little loophole there is for that. You've got all the chances are someone wants to cancel after 9 months. But I'm telling you now, they probably stayed 2 or 3 months longer than they would have done if they didn't have the contract. So even if you let them out at 9 months and you don't have this rigid, no, it has to be 12, they've still stayed longer because they knew they were in contract.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and that becomes an ethical thing. If you want to let people out because they've got no money or they're not using it anymore or anything else, then that's down to you as an owner to go, do you know what, I'll rip your contract up. I don't have an issue with that. You're not using it, so away you go. But the commitment initially, which is you're joining for a year, that's what they're committing to mentally. And rather than, well, listen, cancel at any time. So in their mind already, they're thinking, well, you know what, I'll see it through to the summer and see how I go. So they're preparing to cancel before they've even signed the contract.
And that client journey that you're able to put in then as well, which I know you're massive on as well, making sure that the moment that person joins, this happens. You're able to put all that in place because you know they're there for 12 months. So you can have a really nicely programmed out plan to sort of go at week 1, this happens, week 3, week 10, week whatever. We can have this nice drawn out program because we know they're going to be here, and we can make sure we keep the communications high. That'll keep their retention even higher. And you if someone's here month by month, that doesn't tend to have the same impact.
No, but as well, it's more difficult, I think, to talk to people. We talked about outcomes and accountability. It's more difficult to speak to somebody, well, where do you want to be in 6 months, if in their mind they're cancelling after 3? And they're all joining for some form of result. They either want to, keep fit, bulk up, lose weight. That's the majority of it. They're not happy with how they look, and therefore they're not happy with how they feel. Okay, well, let's commit to do that for you. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your year's worth of membership. what is your weight now? Well, I'm 15 stone. What do you want to get down to? I want to get down to 12 and a half. Fine. Okay, let's focus on that for the first 4 to 5 months. After that, we'll change your program and focus on what you can do to keep you where you are. And then we'll touch base every once a month to make sure you're not, dropping off back onto the starch and the carbs and the sweets. So there's just something around understanding they're here for a reason, and putting that together and creating them a program around it, and it's sort of got lost a little bit, and I don't know why. And to be fair, if you look at it, it's down to numbers. So if you look at somebody that's got no contract and members are staying for 2 years on average, do you know what? Don't introduce one. Because actually, you're telling people it's a year, but they're all staying for 2. But if your average member stays 6 months, then the irony is, if you can contract everybody, and even if you sell half as many members, you'll make the same amount of money in 12 months.
Yeah.
And you need half the staff and half. So it is looking at numbers, but to me, I know it's controversial, but taking a step back and looking, well, where did this come from? I think it came from the budget gyms, because they saw it as a differentiated to their business to make it easy to sell something so low cost. There are just no barriers to this.
And the funny thing is, they probably knew by having no contract, it didn't really matter anyway, because they're so cheap that no one's going to notice it on their bank details anyway. If they're not coming and you're only paying 15 quid a month, 16 quid a month, whatever, you're not even going to notice it. I mean, I saw something the other day on mine, 12 quid. Been paying for it for a year, not used it, not a gym, it's something else. I was like, because it was 12 quid, it never really, consciously, it never appeared in my head. If it was 100 quid that kept going out, I'd have been, get that stopped, and that would have been stopped at month 1. But it's the same as the budgeting. People don't. I know a club in Southport, I think it was one of the original Everlast gyms. And when they were like $5.99 a month, I think it was when they first came out. And people were buying memberships for that, for the car park. So they had 10,000 members paying $5.99, and they reckon their usage, probably about 1,000 of the members actually used it. The rest, because the parking was so expensive in Southport, they were using it for their parking for the month. And it's just like, well, they've clicked on something that works. Who cares whether they're using it for them? And they made it work.
And I think that it's a great example, and hits the nail on the head, the proverbial nail spot on the head, because actually it's about looking at your business, looking at where you make money, how you differentiate yourself, rather than looking at everybody else. And like you say, that's an oddity. But you know what? Let's try and sell 20,000.
The aim was the funny thing was they were actually selling. When you looked at it, they were selling a car park. They weren't actually selling the gym. The sort of gym was the added value to the car park, which is crazy. Rather than what they thought, people were buying the gym, and the car park was the added value. It was completely the other way around when you looked at the membership usage, and it was bonkers. But it stopped people joining all the other gyms in the area. The Anytime Fitness in the area really struggled, because it was just like we can't compete with $5.99. If the person wants to use the gym, it's there, so they're not going to come and pay $34.99 for us.
No, but again, that's where you then need to differentiate yourself, because actually there are people that will, but you've got to create that differentiation in your business. It goes back again to like an achievement and the time involved, and what do people want? Because we don't always buy the cheapest of everything. Otherwise, nobody'd have an iPhone. Nobody would go to the everyman cinema chain. Nobody would go to a posh restaurant. We'd all be sat in McDonald's on our Android phones, watching Netflix with the adverts in. But we don't. Sorry, mate.
Trust me, that one ain't cheap. But I hate Apple. That's just a personal thing. Just flipping slightly now. Obviously, you've been in this space for a long time, as you've said. Yeah. What would you say is the I don't know, the 1, 2, 3 tactics that club owners should be using now to drive more sales, drive more revenue? What would you say is working for your clients at the minute that they should go, okay, if we're going to go, quick tips from you, this is what we need to have a look at?
I think that we've covered some of them in reality, just chatting away, but just to recap those, I think that the way that the world is now, the speed of everything, that you've got to engage people a lot earlier. And the old days of running sales offers to the market as the sort of gold standard, join today and get £50 off and this, that, and the other, is is nowhere near as effective as it used to be. You've got to engage people earlier in the process, and that particularly the Gen Z and our younger people that live alongside us on this planet, they want everything for nothing, and they want it now, and they want it quickly. So I think that I look to businesses to how do you build what I call a freemium model into your business? What do you do that sits underneath everything, that takes all the risk away very early in the relationship, that allows people to get more confidence and trust, like you more, desire what you've got, and therefore you become the go-to person when they're finally ready to buy. And that, I think, is going to become more and more prevalent as time rolls on. And whether that is some sort of membership site that people can go into and get access and information and stuff from, whether it's the ability to have the first part of a process for free, or it's just about trying to get them engaged.
People enjoy seeking out information because we do a lot of like ebooks. I know you guys do similar thing, free ebooks and stuff like that. Now, as a consultant, it's quite a nice thing because that's a way of generating leads. But even for clubs, healthy habits, recipe guides, they work, and you're not actually selling them anything, but you're generating leads, and that seems to work as effective sometimes as a no joining fee offer or a 3 month or whatever. And it's almost like they're seeking help and happy to give their details rather than going, "Oh, this is an offer, I'm going to take it up."
Yeah, and I think that's because of I remember said at the beginning that I never thought I'd use my background in behavioural economics, and that's all I ever use. When people buy something, they are sort of that bit of 3 month or get this 50% off or whatever that offer is here is right at a point of intent. Does that make sense? I'm going back to me buying a car at the weekend. I'm just ready to buy, and I went, "Here's a better deal. Let's have this." So there are people that would at the point of intent and go, "That's a deal. We'll take it." It's an offer that's too irresistible to let go. But actually, to be here, you've got to go through these stages. You've got to go from awareness, which is I've got a problem, or I want to get fit, or I'm overweight, or whatever that is. Problem into consideration. Actually, what could I do to try and solve this problem? Into preference. I'd rather do that before you get to intention. So I think, again, and it's the change in media. You go back 20 years and you just, all you could do was try and get people here. Join today, no joining fee. Join today, first month free. Those things still need to exist if you want to drive more sales than you're getting, because they're focused on people in that intention phase psychologically. Yeah. But what you have the ability to do here is go out and go, let me engage with you. Let you have something for free. And what is it that brings me in? And it can be an ebook, it can be a webinar, it can be a free fitness seminar, it can be a video, it can be a membership site, it can be a series of free videos. What is it that you put into people that go, look, this is what I do, and I want you to trust me, have confidence from me, and see value in me, which is the journey you take. So when I go, hey, I'll give you first month free. So you are the go-to de facto thing. And again, not trying to jump back out, but going back to my car at the weekend, I'm building the thing, the online car configurator. I'm building my car. And the engagement in that, goes to, "Oh, do you like that? Oh, I don't like the wheels. I'll change them." All of a sudden, you're like, I'm building this. This is mine.
Yes, you're getting excited before you've even gone to see the car and even gone to...
Absolutely. I'm not on the website just looking at a car that's X amount of pounds a month. I'm building this thing out, and I'm changing the wheels, and I'm spinning it around and looking at, show me the inside, and I don't like the dash, I can change that for you. So I'm not saying we can do that within gyms, but that level of engagement earlier on takes you from awareness to consideration to preference and then ready to buy. And underneath it, what are those emotional steps? You're going from, I like that, to I desire that, to, okay, I'm confident that can get me what I want. Actually, I trust these guys, and actually I'm going to give them my money. So it's about, that first thing is about how do you fill that gap, and whatever it is you want to, it's go back to how do I generate a lead as early as possible, whether it's an ebook, a video, free trial, all of those things drop in here. So by the time they're in and they're ready to buy, you should be that prime choice. I got a new client who had the best January he's ever had. He's had 800 leads. Wow. And he's, well, but listen, he's only sold 160 of them. And he's going, oh, yeah. And I went, Have you called them all? No. Well, you've offered them all a chance to either watch a three-day series of weight loss videos or come in for a trial. The problem is not lead generation. They've all gone, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
And you've gone, oh yeah, they've not joined. And it's actually you've got to do the work in here now. And it goes back to that accountability thing. It's almost like whatever you can do. I talk about pivot points. The pivot point to me is where they go from a prospect to a member.
Yeah.
So everything before that needs to be barrier-less, nothing in the way. So you want a free trial, you can have one. You want to talk to somebody, you can come and talk to somebody. You want to watch a video, you want to download, all of that, building trust and desire is free. It's the freemium section. And then when it's time for you to sell, they're engaged with you, they're trusting you, they're liking you. And it works really well in gyms. But it works just as well if you're a PT or if somebody says, well, I can't give a free session away. Okay. Well, no, but you can give the first part of it away. To me, the freemium model is about can you give away knowledge and education and engagement? What can you do for that? Or can you give away a snippet of what you do? Or, for example, if you're a PT, well, can you give away a 15-minute consultation on what it is they're trying to achieve weight loss wise?
It's really interesting because I was talking to someone the other day and they're working with online coaches, for instance, and they're saying that's absolutely flying. And what they've said is the people they're working with, these guys have got like 1 million followers. But it's exactly going back to what you're talking about. These guys are given so much content and so much value at the front end that when it comes around to selling their product, the person's actually bought the individual rather than necessarily the results. They're just buying and going, actually, these guys are giving me so much, they can help me with my problem now. And it's all this, because they're giving so much that end, that actually the sales process, and these guys were doing the calls to sell them. And they were saying it's not even a sales call. You're literally phoning up and going, right, we'll sign you up. It's £400 a month or whatever it is. It was so easy, they reckon, the sales on it, because the value that had been given at the front end.
And it goes back to that word value again. It's about value, and value's created when what you offer seems too good to be true. That's what value is. Not that's worth 50 quid, I'm paying 50 quid. It's like they're only charging 50 quid for this. So when you got this is too good to be true. But you build that value through confidence and trust and engagement and nurturing and all the things that go before it, particularly when you've got nothing literally for them to take away in a box. You give them a membership card and a receipt and the promise of somewhere down the line. So, and it is, you're right, they are buying people, but what they're buying into is value and people, create that. So building in that, whatever that freemium model is at the beginning, is essential. And also what it does, not only does it help you sell more initially and get a better type of member or a more suited member because they can understand you a bit more. It's a bit like compound interest, because if you're running a sales message and it sort of goes, hey, get a month free, and so 100 people call you up and 70 buy, that's brilliant, and you've got 30 leads that didn't buy. But if you go, hey, we're running a three-day, 1 hour guaranteed weight loss course online, or we're giving this ebook away, or we're giving this series of free classes away, whatever it is in this freemium model, then instead of 100 inquiries, you get 300.
Yeah.
Now, even if you only sell an extra 10 compared to the 100 down to 70, you go from 300 to 80 members. What happens the following month when you do it again? You got your 300 and you sell your 80, but you've got 220 people from the month before who are now being engaged and nurtured in your pods, who you can call and say, hey, here's another video series. Hey, here's another ebook. Hey, here's another free series of classes we're putting on. Absolutely. All of a sudden, over time, within 2-3 years, I know it's a long time in the business, but in 2-3 years, you've probably got a pot of about 20,000 people that you're talking to.
It's crazy, isn't it? And most of those tend to stay local. It's a really nice database to have, and obviously having a really strong email list is also an important thing. Now, I'm conscious of time, Adrian, because obviously we've had you on for a while. Now, obviously you've gone back into the fitness and you're running a program. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk through what that program is, what it is you're doing with clubs.
Yeah, well, I think it's two things. I think that I'm a big believer. I think we're going to talk about three things. We only got time to cover one, but the second one is sales. And I know it's an area that you really, really focus on. But the amount of gyms nowadays that don't have what I would call salespeople is just mental. And then the third part of it is, how do you get people spending more money? And as I moved into healthcare, I moved into retail, I moved into travel with Enjoy, and all of a sudden you start to see the same concepts being delivered in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
And then actually, when you strip it all back, I'm going, do you know what? And this is going to sound a little bit glib, but when around 2004 2015, when I got involved with a couple of friends of mine opening gyms, and I was saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do the other. It was so nice to have people go, this is amazing, I'm going to go do this now, rather than trying to persuade clients why they need to spend £250,000 on a TV ad. They go, I'll go and do this tomorrow. I'll go and get my website changed. I'll go and it came from an understanding. I thought, you know what? And I'll say it's going to sound a bit glib. I thought, I wish I knew me now.
Yeah.
Back then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just thought, I really enjoy this. And I thought, but I can't take on gyms in the same way that I'm running now. I just can't deliver what we deliver. So I went back and thought, right, what are those key areas that if we put those into place for people can make a radical difference to them? And on the top level, it's really straightforward. We will build out the sales funnels for people. We build all the Facebook ads, PPC ads, depending on where their traffic is. It might be Instagram and YouTube, but one or two key media streams into a funnel, and whether it's a budget gym buy online or whether it's book appointments and all of that.
Yeah.
So we build that out and then we run that each month. And then the second bit was sales. Well, actually, it's like going back to the guy I mentioned, 800 leads. Okay, well, there's another 100 sales in there. And this is what you need to do to get the 100 sales out. So we put a little sales coaching bit into it. And then the third part of it was about the whole idea of not leaving money on the table. And it's something that, as I went outside the industry and I started to see businesses doing all the levels, not a business starting to do one level. So a budget gym does £20 and a boot camp does that. And so the big businesses doing all of this. And I went, there's a lot of money there. So I call it squeezing the sponge, which is you dip in I love analogies and visualization. You get a sponge, put it in a bucket, and do a quick squeeze, put it back in again. It's like, keep squeezing. Squeeze the
Get
sponge.
everything out of it. But it's amazing how many of these big companies will have you think, I don't know, John Lewis, all of those, and then you'll actually see it. They do actually have a lower price option and stuff like that because they're trying to hit everybody, but you don't necessarily see it in the same way. If you were looking for that, you'll find it. Yeah. If I'm looking for that, I'll find it. And they do it really well, but we don't. We almost just go, that's one price. And I would say to people, there's two ways of making money. You either sell to more people or you increase your yield.
Yeah,
you don't make money out. I mean, obviously, you can make more profit by cutting your costs now. But in terms of pure sales, you either sell more or you charge more, and increase your yield. And so many just focus on it's sales. We've got to sell more. 100 is 120. It's 100. Well, actually, drop it to 70, but charge 50% more, and you're onto a winner. And it's that sort of idea that you're getting people into the habit. If there's more gyms opening up, you need to make more money off the people you've got. And how do we do that? And that's what you're talking about there. And I think it's really important and valuable because as a young industry, we don't do that well enough. And I think that's one of the places that we can really maximize on.
Absolutely, and it's understand. And I have a lot of people say, "Oh, it won't work in the gym industry. You can charge $3,000 for a business class flight, $7,000." I love that analogy, but I can't do that. And then and we can finish on this if you want. And I drag out the ultimate explanation of why anybody will pay anything for anything if you understand how much money they've got. And it's my friend Beyonce. She is the world's greatest business person on this planet. And I think Taylor Swift is doing this better now, but she started this, which was, you used to go to a concert when I was young, it was 50 quid and you forced your way to the front if you were lucky. And that was it. We all paid 50 quid, whether it was raining or seated or standing. Yeah. And she goes, no, that's not the Beyonce way. I get 50,000 people in the stadium. I'm going to have 26,000 of them paying the 50 quid. That's absolutely fine. But I'm going to have 9,000 of them paying £120 because they're going to stand in front of a barrier so the others can't push and get in front of me. And you go, that's genius. But then she has another barrier and there's 3 sections at the front. And now we're up to £450 a ticket. And you're going, I'm still crammed in at the front. I'm now closer so I can see the woman. But you know what? It's the same songs. It's still pouring down with bloody rain. I've had to queue for 7 hours to get in, and I'm going to be the last person out of here as well. And And then she'll go, oh, do you want a meet and greet? Well, that's going to cost you 1,500 quid. I'll do 1,000 of those. But the beauty of her now, she's like, I'm not finished there. She's like, I'm going to do Adrian Marks of Squeezing the Sponge. And she now has parts of her stage which are built up with seats on, which you can sit on the stage. And you've literally got pure, it's called pure access or honey access. Choose whichever one you want. I have no idea.
Well, look at Taylor Swift. She'll sell hers in the cinema now. So you can either go to the show, you can pay all those sorts of money out, or you can pay your $9.99 or whatever to go watch her in the cinema. And you're like going, hold on a minute, it's not
genius.
even live.
I know, but that's the bottom bit to it, and they're probably great experiences. But those seats on those stages are £3,300 each.
Well, you only have to look at the Super Bowl. When I watched the Super Bowl, was it last week or the week before? And second-hand tickets were going for something like $25,000. And you're just like, that is just bonkers. And they weren't like close to the pitch or anything like that. These were standard tickets. Just going, that is just bonkers. But that's an industry that knows how to market itself and make the most of every single seat that they've got there. But there is one question I do like to finish on. That is a good day. That was a good point to finish on that, Adrian. But I always like to ask my clients, what motivates you to do what you do every day?
Oh, what a good question. Do you know what? And again, I'm going to sound glib. I love what I do. I love understanding how and why people buy stuff, and like I say, I never thought I'd use it, and it's all I do. But more than anything, and I said this to somebody the other day, and I do say to my clients, I almost feel like I care more about my clients' businesses than they do sometimes. I'm really passionate about the whole idea of generating results, and I think that's the bit of a maths geek in me. I love numbers. I love going, if we squeeze that and we move that and move the other. But there's just something about growth. And I think the fitness industry epitomizes that in nearly every way. We are a new industry. Like I say, that the hotel industry is 2,000 years old. The airline industry is 100 years old. Travel industry probably 500 years old. We are not that old, and we're still learning and still growing. So that's lovely. But actually, when members come in, they change. And there's something nice about the fact that you buy an iPhone or an Android and you enjoy it for a couple of days. You do. And then you just throw it around and it becomes just another thing you're playing with. Whereas the differences that you can see in people, I think it's amazing. So I don't know. So I think I'm driven by, I love what I do. But I love getting results for people, and industry and marketing together is cool.
Well, on that note, we'll leave it. I loved having you on. I mean, obviously,
I've loved it, mate.
For so long, it's been great to finally get you on. If anybody does want to contact Adrian, all his details will be at the end of the podcast. But he's on LinkedIn, email, and so on. So we'll give him a shout if you think he can help your business. But we'll get you on again, Adrian, and obviously we'll probably see you at Elevate or PerformX or one of the various ones soon. And appreciate your time today.
No, it's been wonderful. Listen, mate, I've loved every minute of it, and hopefully catch up soon.
Awesome.